Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Introducing a powerful new update from the Foojan app. Now with flexible subscription plans to fit your journey monthly, quarterly, or yearly. Our new AI-driven onboarding customizes your path to feeling better, faster, and enjoy a refreshed experience with stunning 3D interactive videos. Update now. Empower your inner voice with Foojan. Download today.
Our worth never changes. We just sometimes feel kind of crushed and stepped on, and just like, let's say, a $20 bill. You know, you could crush it, you could step on it, you could fold it. What's it worth? $20. Still the same worth, but a lot of times people forget that as they become jaded, as they become, as maybe they fail or things don't turn out as that they would like. And to be self-accepting, self-forgiving, non-judgmental are the cornerstones to self.
Listen up if you want to promote your personal growth and self-awareness. I found the Foojan app last month and I have been absolutely loving it. I personally have never learned guided meditation, but thanks to this app, I now have learned incredible tools for my own stress relief and emotional self-awareness. Not to mention, there are self-evaluation tools and professional coaching available to utilize however your journey to self-discovery takes you. Join Foojan today and redefine your life one step at a time.
Intentional Parenting, a practical guide to awareness integration theory, written by Dr. Jafari, Dr. Foojan Zeine, and Dr. Manoukian, three experts in human development, is your step-by-step guide to raising a healthy child prepared for a culturally integrated world. You're supported in parenting infants to adolescents using the latest evidence-based scientific research on parenting. Order your copy on Amazon now.
Welcome to the Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist, an author, and a creator of the awareness integration theory. I'm thrilled to have you join us today, which what I promise you truly, it's going to be an insightful discussion with a lot of good tips. So today I speak with Judith Belmont. She has 40 years experience as a psychotherapist and a private practice and mental health coach and a mental health corporate trainer, as well as a wellness conference speaker. She is the author of 11 mental health and self-help books and 2 therapeutic card decks. Judy holds a master's degree in clinical psychology from Heinemann Medical College and a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Pennsylvania. We will be talking about her latest book, which is 110 Cognitive Behavioral Therapy Tips and Tools. And literally, she gives you a lot of tips and tools in the conversation that we had. I really enjoyed having a conversation with a fellow therapist and a counselor where you could look and dig into different angles of things. And she obviously, because her approach is from behavioral cognitive therapy, that's how she was sharing those tips with you. They're amazing tools that I'm positive you'll enjoy. Now, be sure to subscribe to this podcast on my YouTube channel and connect with me, please, through my website, foojanzeine.com. And even the podcast. If you have any questions, if you have ideas that you want us to talk about, the conversations or questions or about your life, let us know so I can talk about it in the podcast, or I can bring guests who are experts in those areas and we can share it with you. Connect with me on my social media platform. Go to Foojan app in your Apple or Google Play stores and work on 31 areas of your life from awareness integration theory. And guess what? Meet Mira, who is the chatbot, AI chatbot, who's been trained in the awareness integration, who could answer you as like your private coach anytime during the day. So go to download Foojan app, which is going to be free for you for a couple of days. So you could just test it out and meet Mira there. Okay. Now, I love to hear from you. So let me know. Contact me in any format. Okay. Without further ado, here's Judith Belmont.
Are you a psychotherapist looking to enhance your practice? The Awareness Integration Therapy developed by Dr. Foojan Zeine is a comprehensive guide to the principle and techniques of this powerful therapeutic approach. Join the growing community who have elevated their practice and expanded their skills by embracing Awareness Integration Therapy and witnessing its life-changing impact. Order your copy on Amazon now.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have Judith Belmont with us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You are the author of 110 CBT tips and tools. And
Yes.
for people who want to know what CBT is, can you share about cognitive behavioral therapy? I know you have been a therapist and a mental health coach for many, many years. And you wrote this book, which I went through it, and it's amazing. It literally does, everybody. It's got 110 tips and tools specifically written. So it's very rich, and it really allows people to go and look at the different angles. And we'll talk about all the angles that you brought up. But it seems like you loved cognitive behavioral therapy as a strategy and as a method. Can you share what got you interested in cognitive behavioral therapy?
Yes, what I love about cognitive behavioral therapy is that, and also other therapies such as DBT, dialectic behavior therapy, ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, they're all hands-on therapies where people learn practical skills to have a better life. Because a lot of times we want to change, but we have no clue how to change. And so that's what I like about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, because it's very conducive to giving people tools in order to change what they want to change in their lives and empower themselves. It's one thing to think, oh, I have to think more clearly. How do you do that? So I have diaries, I have logs, I have self-help quizzes, I have worksheets, specific things geared towards identifying cognitive distortions so you can think more clearly. So people aren't born with that kind of knowledge. When you learn it, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's very intuitive. But we don't actually know these things unless we are given the tools.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree with you. I created awareness integration theory, which I brought a lot of the cognitive behavioral therapy in it. I studied with Albert Ellis. I mean, he brought
really? Wow.
the original concept into it. And it is very useful, especially how you challenge some of what you said, the distortive thought processes. And it's been so widely known and so much researched that you can find it in any format. We have research on every element of cognitive behavioral therapy. So because you are, you wrote your book from that angle. So we definitely want to present from that angle and what you know from cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, you've talked about how your book kind of begins with the concept of self-esteem, which is kind of the cornerstone of how people think about themselves, feel about themselves, view themselves, and share with us about your protocol or your way of looking at how to raise self-esteem.
Well, self-esteem to me is the cornerstone of mental health. If you don't feel good about yourself, if your relationship with yourself isn't good, how are you going to have good relationships? Excuse me, good relationships with anybody else? So what we think about ourselves is really the cornerstone to how we feel about our lives and the quality of our relationships. The one thing that I have been struck with over the years is how so many people don't have high self-esteem. They have such self-limiting beliefs that they might believe people a long time ago who told them they, were not good enough, or they were this or that, something judgmental or critical. And so people talk to themselves like they would never talk to anyone else. Like people would often say to themselves, oh, you idiot, you shouldn't have said that. Would you actually say that to a best friend? And so actually one of the exercises in my book, one of the tips of the 110 is write down some of the things that you're saying to yourself if you're being hard on yourself. And then imagine that you that those same things are said by someone you admire a lot. And what would you say to them? Would you say, yeah, you're right. You're really a jerk. You really blew your chance. Or would you say, you know what? You tried, you did your best, and I believe in you. So just even that shift of perspective that you're not talking to yourself anymore, you're talking to someone that you love and how that's different. Because we're no less worthy than the day we were born. You know, no one and looking at children in a nursery say, oh, I like this one with a longer hair, should have longer hair. This one doesn't have enough hair yet. No, they're all beautiful. Babies are all beautiful. Well, guess what? Our worth never changes. We just sometimes feel kind of crushed and stepped on. And just like, let's say, a $20 bill. You know, you could crush it, you could step on it, you could fold it. What's it worth? $20. Still the same worth. But a lot of times people forget that as they become jaded, as they become, as maybe they fail or things don't turn out as that they would like. And to be self-accepting, self-forgiving, non-judgmental are the cornerstones to self-esteem.
One of the things that shows up a lot in my sessions, and I love to know your view and how your experience is that obviously a lot of those self-esteem issues showed up because of the interjection of what we heard possibly from our parents and the way they looked at us or disciplined us, or the only way that they knew, and the voices, you know, possibly the way they were disciplining us. And if they said they didn't like something we did, either they said it in a way that we assumed that it was about us and not just our behavior, or they said what they needed to say, and we still translated that it had to do with me. Or when we went to school and the teacher, you know, trying to, again, discipline and show us and teach us, you know, if we didn't do the best, then they were looking at another person and they're saying they're doing it. So I would take it as, see, I'm not good enough. And then we would attach all of these kind of thought processes to ourselves. Or we'll go to with friends, and, you know, friends keep changing, and, you know, they love you one minute. And, you know, when we were little and you're in school, you don't share a toy with each other, and the other one says, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And then we take that and, you know, make up all of this stuff about ourselves. So sometimes as we kind of convince ourselves that we're not good enough, or, you know, we're not enough, or there's something wrong with us and all of that.
Yeah.
As we're growing up, sometimes it becomes difficult to admire. So the technique of talk to me like you admire someone, it's a beautiful technique. And it works with the ones that, you know, you tell them that and you challenge them and they insist. No, I hate myself. I know I can prove to you that I'm not good enough. Can you share in your years of practice, how do you work with that kind of belief system that the person holds and is convinced and will not change to someone that they could actually admire, regardless of your absolute truth that all are worth it? You know, some people will say, no, 8 billion other people are. I'm just the only one who's not.
Yeah, a great question. Well, when my clients would say things like, you know, I'm not good enough, it shows that I'm just a bad person, that would mean I'm a bad person, whatever, I would write it down. This is a good exercise for anybody to do. Write it down and then reflect on that. Say, okay, does that seem like fact or fiction? Is this a story you're telling yourself, or is this actual fact? So if someone says, I just feel like I'm a loser, first thing, I help them differentiate thoughts from feelings. If you say, I feel like I'm a loser, guess what? That's not a feeling, that's a thought. You can change your thoughts. You can't change your feelings. You can't say you shouldn't feel hungry, but you can change your thoughts. So first you differentiate, and that's a skill right there, because a lot of times people confuse them. And let's say you get to the point, I think I'm a failure. The word failure is all or nothing. When people think in all or nothing ways, that's an example of a cognitive distortion. When we have cognitive distortions, we're going to have these very self-downing, self-limiting beliefs that are going to cripple us and that are going to make us not adept at rolling with life and being resilient, because we're going to be stuck in that mindset. So you have to first be aware of your ants, which are called automatic negative thoughts. So automatic because we might have learned them from so long ago, we don't even know that they're complete fiction. I tell my clients it's like Pig Latin. We learn Pig Latin. It's not like a real language. And now we have to learn a healthier, more factual language. So we shift from, okay, what's wrong with, I'm such a failure. How would you say it that it's not a narrative and not fiction effect? I am disappointed in that I haven't accomplished certain things by now. So one is more temporary. By now, it shows that you can be a victor instead of a victim. You can grow. You can have what's called a growth mindset over a fixed mindset and stop defining yourself by what you were or labels. Labeling in itself is a cognitive distortion. Oh, she's an idiot. I'm a jerk. He's lazy. That's all cognitive distortions. That makes a person who's very complex, one-dimensional. I would think that maybe their parents or their children or their friends would not consider them. So don't state labels as facts. So you're more descriptive. I am frustrated that he comes late to work a lot. What you think is being lazy about it. So cognitive distortions are things like all or nothing thinking. This is terrible rather than this is unfortunate. Yeah, there's something that are terrible, such as life-threatening diagnoses, death, that they are terrible. But what a lot of times people terribilize are not so terrible. Labeling, fortune telling is another cognitive distortion. I'll never get it together. I'll never meet anybody else. I just had a friend who just is going through a divorce. I'll never find anybody else. How do you know that? So once we start identifying, just imagine that you have a magnifying glass and identify those cognitive distortions and then reframe it in a different way. That's called cognitive restructuring, another example of cognitive behavior therapy.
Beautiful. Because the way that I've also brought it into the awareness integration is what you're sharing is how to fix when somebody fixates and generalizes some idea and they kind of put it in a cement. It's no longer fluid for them.
Right.
And you're shifting it based on kind of like opening the lens a little bit of seeing that it isn't fixed in cement. It is fluid. And then based on everything you shared is not only that you have the negative angles of some of these things, but if you kind of open the lens, you also see there are some positive angles. That even with the catastrophizing of an illness, I know for many, many people who have been diagnosed and treated with cancer, sometimes they say like, this was the best thing that could happen to me because it shifted my life. It really put me into another path. And, it was more like my body was sharing something with me and I wasn't listening. And I had to get hit by a 2x4 before. And the 2x4 was the cancer. And I had to go through this to change my friendships, the way that I did businesses and all and all. So you could say that, yes, because we're holding on to some belief systems and then we hold them not only to our past, but the present. And then, like you said, fortune telling in the future, that concept of everlasting and always or a never that we create, then it places us in a hopeless and a helpless place where
absolutely,
as you said, we become the victim of that thought process we just created, versus when it's fluid, we also have the empowerment of shifting things that are fluid, and we can look forward to some changes that are around us or that we will come.
Excellent points. And that brings me to the importance of a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. Research has shown that people who have a growth mindset are happier people than a fixed mindset. So if you want to be happier, you want to be growth oriented and not define yourself by self-limiting beliefs. So an example of a growth mindset is I might not be as talented as other people, but I enjoy this medium of art, let's say, and I'm going to pursue it because it brings a lot of enjoyment. A fixed mindset is I'm not good at it. So one is you feel like you have to be above average or you're not going to do it. And another one is it's of interest to me and I want to explore it. It's not so judgmental.
One of the ways, Judy, that I've noticed is that the reason people get into fixed mindsets is as if it's not true, but it's as if they have some sense of control over it if they can, box it in, if they can create all the parameters. And sometimes fluidity might feel like I'm not in control, and therefore, they hold it from that angle. And obviously, even when we look at anxiety, what you said is a fortune telling about, all the negative things that might happen in the future, and we scared the shit out of ourselves. We do this consistently because we're looking at a fixed mindset that we kind of threw or projected into our future. And from your perspective, how do you handle anxiety? I mean, obviously, some anxiety is normal. It's part of our human emotion. It gives us some messages, which we need to do that. But when we're talking about anxiety here at this point, is not the natural and normal emotions toward things that need to be there. But we're talking a little bit more about like the extreme or neurotic anxiety. Can you share a little bit about that?
Right. So it's sort of like anxiety is sort of like stress. A lot of times people think stress is bad, but stress is the spice of life. We need stress to enjoy. Doing this podcast is more stressful than sitting and watching TV. It makes life meaningful. It gives ourselves a sense of commitment, challenge. So stress isn't bad and anxiety is not bad. We need to have enough anxiety so we're not going to be speeding at 120 miles an hour and getting people in an accident and jeopardizing lives. So within limits, we can manage our stress, we can manage our anxiety. That's good. It's just when it becomes unmanageable. And it becomes unmanageable because of the way that we think. And we don't feel like we're in control. So we take our thoughts that are not in control, such as, oh, it would be terrible if they don't like me. That would cause anxiety, to I'm going to try to present myself in my most authentic light. And hopefully they will like me. So one is putting the power on someone else, and everything is external validation. And the other one is more still wanting and feeling challenged to do well. It's not like you want to be a couch potato or not have any commitment, but you don't want to have other people in control of your value. So I would say a lot of anxiety is giving up control. Giving up control to someone else because you want someone to like you. I don't want to be rejected. And so what I would say to my clients is, if you're rejected, is that a reflection of your worth? What does it actually mean? Because people think if I'm rejected, that means I'm not good enough. Well, maybe that person, already has a date, or maybe that person, has other reasons, or maybe they think you're too good or whatever. You don't know. So you never want to put external validation into a relationship that then makes you feel powerless.
A lot of times when we talk about anxiety, the experience is more, I don't have control. And I like the way you said it. No, it's not that you don't have control. You're giving up the control.
Yes. Right.
So yes, there's a lot of things in life we don't have control. I mean, that's obvious. We don't have control over a lot of the stuff. But there is some stuff you do have control, and you are giving it up because you are looking at all the other areas that you don't have control over. And you're kind of clumping even the areas you do have some sense of being in control into the bigger clump and saying is as if I'm giving up all control.
Absolutely. And that's why Just learning the fundamental ABCs of cognitive behavior therapy is really good. A stands for an action or an event. So let's say someone walks by you that you know well, and they just keep on walking, don't say anything. So the C, which is the consequence, is made up of feelings and your behavior. The feeling might be feeling rejected, feeling bad, and then your behavior might be you'll snub the person the next time. Does A cause C? No, it's that B in the middle. B is for belief. Your belief is that person is snubbing me. They must not like me. Maybe they're mad at me. And then that's going to cause the emotion. If you think, oh, that person was so lost in thought they probably didn't see me, you would have felt amused, and therefore you would talk to the person the next time. So, so many times we're not in touch with that automatic negative thoughts. And so we react and we think, she made me mad. He makes me so sad. No one can do that. Now, we're not talking about abuse here. We're not talking about child abuse. Yeah, obviously, you can control someone's life who's very vulnerable and, with criminal abusive behavior. But we're talking about, non-criminal behavior. No one can change the neurons in your brain. So like when I would ask when I did live presentations before COVID, I would say who does traffic stress you out? And everybody would raise their hand. And I would say, guess what? It doesn't. You're stressed in response to the traffic. Because what happens if you're a traffic controller? If if that is your job, or some people are more stressed than others. Snow can't stress you out. Some people love to ski. When they see the snow, they get all excited. So things outside can't make us anxious or can't stress us out. We give them the keys to the car.
Actually, even with extreme abuse, and someone with a younger, very vulnerable, a lot of work we do, even in the awareness integration theory, which we go into the past, a lot of the times you could see that if the same thing happened in twin studies, that the twins, because they perceived it in a different way, they got affected in a different way. When we work with people who are veterans in the war, same thing, same, let's say trauma happened to the same platoon, and then we see the people who are there took it in a different way, and therefore it affected them in a different way, right? Same thing with child abuse, physical abuse, or even sexual abuse. I've worked with same family where the kids who were in the family were all abused sexually by the father, or another family which was physically abused either by the father and the mother. And then as you work with the family, you still see that each one of them, based on how they interpreted and perceived it and all of that, it impacted them in a whole different way. So right. Absolutely right, that the way we interpret, make beliefs around, give it meaning in the amount of information that we receive from the outside world, we create our own stories, and then based on that, the stories, the belief system, the schemas, and all of it, then we have the emotions, then we have the behaviors around that, and that's somehow, how we are in control or give up control.
Right. I mean, if you've had abuse and trauma in the past, and there's all sorts of varieties of trauma, there's no shortage of ways people can be traumatized. That doesn't mean that your life is sealed. That's what's about the growth mindset. You have now to look at it and to integrate yourself, wiser, more empathetic, but be able still to move on from the trauma. And that's what's called post-traumatic growth instead of post-traumatic stress. We all have the seeds to grow, but a lot of times people don't realize it, and it takes something real extreme to set them free. And you don't want to wait for something on the outside. I'll give you an example. I worked with a guy for a while who blamed himself for his wife's alcoholism because he cheated on her early in their marriage. And their next 45 years, he blamed himself and she would blame him, constantly bring it up to him. Only when she died, unfortunately, it was only when she died, he was able to free himself from that self-limiting belief and realize he was not responsible for her choices. Yeah, he did something he regretted, but it defined him. And only by forgiving himself and forgiving himself for not knowing then what he knows now, he was able to move on and form a better relationship that was healthier.
Yes, absolutely. Talking about addiction and talking about also depression, in the book, you also share about how to kind of let go of some of the belief systems and the way that we are that kind of creates, induces, and lands the depression for us for a long time. Can you share a bit about that?
Well, one technique that I like that's also borrowed from acceptance and commitment therapy that was developed by Stephen Hayes is developing what's called an observing head. I have found that so helpful with clients is to distance yourself. Sometimes the negative thoughts are so persistent. It's hard to keep on disputing them. We get tired, we get fatigued. Sometimes it's good just to distance yourself and imagine that instead of thinking, I'm a loser, imagine it on a cloud. I'm a loser. You're looking at your thought rather than from your thought. And that's the process of what's called cognitive diffusion. You're diffusing it from your brain, so you're observing it. Or imagine it on like a ticker tape on a movie screen, those thoughts. So you have more objectivity. And there I go again, having that thought rather than, yeah, it's true. So that would be an example of developing an observing head so you can distance yourself from the thoughts.
That you are not necessarily your thoughts, that they come and go. We have about 60,000 of them that kind of show up every day. And a lot of them are just automatic. They just show up because they do, because at one point, we entertained them too many times. And then because it was around there, it became part of the automatic neural network of a default position that it just shows up once in a while. So as we kind of separate ourselves from the thought being me versus just it's a thought, then it's much easier to be able to let it go and not have it necessarily that is attached to me.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, 100 CBT tips and tools, proven cognitive behavioral therapy strategies for working through anxiety, depression, perfectionism, anger, regret, stress, and more. Let's talk about regret.
Regret is not having the foresight to what is now so obvious in hindsight. A lot of times people beat themselves up because they think they missed opportunities and what's now so obvious wasn't so obvious back then. And I have seen so many people that are so consumed with regret that they actually can't see clearly what is happening now. They look at the world with smudgy glasses. It's like that, obviously. Not necessarily. They might have clean, real glasses, but it's like they don't have real clear thinking because their regrets are right in front of their eyes. And I'm thinking of a Charlie Brown cartoon that I use in my presentations. And he says, he missed a ball and he said, the past got in my eyes. And that's why he missed the ball when, he was playing baseball or something like that. He was going for it, but the past got in his eyes. How many times did the past get in your eyes? So regret is defining yourself in a way that cannot be changed. So how I have helped people, and in my book, deal with regret, is working on forgiveness and working on compassion. The reason why a lot of people act in ways that they now regret is that they might have been in a certain kind of pain. It wasn't like they're bad. I had been a therapist and then later on a mental health coach for over 40 years. I have never met one person who meant to be dysfunctional. I've never met one person who meant badly by their actions, but a lot of their actions ended up being toxic because we can't be something that we're not, and we can only give someone what we have. Too many times people look for others to give things that they don't have to give. It's like going to a hardware store expecting to buy bread.
Yes, absolutely. It's there's an experience of holding yourself really in the past also, right? You don't move on.
Right. You get defined by your past instead of moving forward and aware of your present.
And every time you move forward, because of the hindsight you got right now, it seems like you go back to the past, like you said, and expect that to happen. The same way with the perfectionism, where there's an expectation that is unrealistic of yourself to be perfect, which we don't even know where the markers of the perfect is because they keep changing.
Who wants to be a perfect? Better to be authentic.
Yes, yes. So there are a lot of, like you said, the fixed position that we find ourselves, whether in the temporal concept of the past or the future, or that in some belief system that is haunting us and we don't know how to get out of it because we start believing it as if it's true.
It's unbelievable, the power of regret. Mm-hmm. And that's why I focused on it. In this book. I mean, it's one of the chapters. There's 11 chapters, and that's one of them, because we all fundamentally try to be good people. Very few people don't try, and we make mistakes. We didn't know everything since we were 5. And by having compassion for ourselves and letting go with compassion and forgiveness of what we regret, we build on today. So let's say, oh, I was a terrible parent. Okay, well, first thing, that's all or nothing, right? But okay, well, I yelled too much at my children. Okay, that's specific. Well, now what are you doing with those children, maybe grandchildren, and the people around you? Are you trying to learn from that and be kinder to everyone? So the more people right now can use those lessons that they regret to make them better people, that's how you heal.
Yes, absolutely. Is there anything we haven't shared that you really want people to know?
I just want people to realize that they're as beautiful as the day that they were born. Oh, and a lot of times we forget that.
Absolutely. So everyone, go get this book, 100 CBT Tips and Tools, Proven Cognitive Behavioral Therapy Strategies for Working Through Anxiety, Depression, Perfectionism, Anger, Regret, Stress, and many, many, many more, by Judith Belmont. Where can people find you, Judy?
Well, you can look at my website, which is belmontwellness.com. And I have a lot of free resources. I have a lot of examples of the things that are in my book, such as the worksheets and the handouts and self-help quizzes, because it's one thing to know you need to change, but you actually have to practice it. You don't just know this and then all of a sudden thinking differently. It takes a lot of practice, just like getting physically fit. You need to get mentally fit. And that's a good way of using these exercises. And I have a lot of free resources on my website, like in my book, and also my Amazon author page.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to be.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
And for everyone out there, please, if you like this, what you heard and all the tips, go ahead and share this episode with anyone you like and you know that they also would like these tips. And, go to the podcast and rate us and make sure that you can share it with everyone that you want them to know. And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.